Welcome to this mock trial exploring the landmark case of U.S. v. Fremont Weeks, presented by the World Affairs Council of Austin. The 1914 case of Weeks v. United States revolved around the Fourth Amendment and introduced the crucial concept of the exclusionary rule. The central question in the Weeks case is, can a person be convicted with evidence obtained through an illegal search? This touches upon the balance between evidence and constitutional protection. The case began in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Missouri. Fremont Weeks was federally prosecuted for lottery offenses. The trial centered on a Fourth Amendment challenge after federal officers seized his papers without a warrant. Weeks was suspected of illegal lottery operations. Local police and federal officers conducted 2 warrantless searches of his home, seizing private papers. Weeks moved to suppress this evidence, but the district court denied his motion. The key Fourth Amendment questions were whether the federal government violated the amendment and if the unlawfully seized evidence should be excluded from trial. The exclusionary rule is a safeguard for essential Fourth Amendment rights. It deters unlawful searches and seizures and ensures that unconstitutionally obtained evidence is excluded from trial. We now move into the mock trial, focusing on the prosecution's case in Weeks v. United States. The prosecution's theory was that the seized papers, showing Weeks's involvement in an illegal lottery, were lawfully used. They argued the Fourth Amendment did not yet require exclusion in federal court, and officers acted in good faith. The prosecution contended that the Fourth Amendment does not explicitly require exclusion. Seized evidence remains reliable proof, and excluding it harms justice. They maintained federal officers acted in good faith. According to the prosecution's constitutional rule, the government was entitled to use the seized documents. Federal officers enforced laws in good faith, and the seized papers were valid proof of criminal acts. The key evidence seized included Weeks's private correspondence and documents, taken without a warrant. This evidence directly linked Weeks to the illegal lottery and formed the basis of the federal prosecution. The prosecution called witnesses Reginald Pembroke and Emily Fanshaw to testify in the Weeks v. United States mock trial. Reginald Pembroke was a key prosecution witness. His testimony connected Weeks to the lottery scheme and helped prove the illegal gambling operation. Emily Fanshaw also testified for the prosecution. Her evidence further linked Weeks to the lottery operation, supporting the government's case. Other prosecution witnesses also provided testimony and evidence supporting the existence of the illegal lottery scheme and Weeks's connection to it, building a strong case for the government. Now we examine the defense case during the Weeks trial of 1914. The defense argued that the warrantless searches violated the Fourth Amendment. They demanded the exclusion of all seized private papers, asserting the government should not benefit from unconstitutional conduct, emphasizing the necessity of the exclusionary rule. Professor Wimpole testified as a defense expert witness, challenging the legality of the federal search. The defense's aim was to exclude the seized papers from the trial. Dr. Henry Lee also provided expert testimony for the defense, likely challenging the legality of the federal search. He supported the argument to exclude the seized papers. Fremont Weeks, the defendant, argued that his Fourth Amendment rights were violated. The defense presented witnesses to support his motion to exclude the illegally seized papers. The defense's constitutional rule centered on the Fourth Amendment, which protects citizens against unreasonable searches. They argued that private papers seized without a warrant must be excluded to safeguard constitutional rights. Other defense witnesses also testified, likely challenging the prosecution's evidence and supporting Weeks's Fourth Amendment arguments to weaken the government's case legally. The defense theory was clear. Federal officers violated Weeks's Fourth Amendment rights with multiple warrantless searches. All seized papers must be excluded, as the government cannot benefit from unconstitutional conduct. In summary, the defense argued the warrantless searches were unconstitutional. All illegally seized evidence must be excluded to prevent the government from benefiting from its own unlawful acts, upholding the exclusionary rule. The defense insisted the exclusionary rule is essential because the seizure of private papers without warrants violated the Fourth Amendment. Unconstitutionally obtained evidence must be excluded under this new federal rule. The defense reiterated their constitutional rule. The Fourth Amendment ensures privacy and security. Private papers seized without a warrant must be excluded from trial to safeguard the essential constitutional rights of the accused. The constitutional exclusionary rule safeguards Fourth Amendment rights, deters future unlawful police actions, protects against government overreach, and ensures judicial integrity in the federal courts. The Weeks case established the federal exclusionary rule. The Supreme Court reversed the lower court, declaring that warrantless seizures violate the Fourth Amendment and unconstitutionally seized evidence must be excluded from federal trials. The district court's original ruling saw Judge Smith McPherson deny the motion to suppress. The illegally seized papers were allowed as evidence, leading the jury to find Weeks guilty. The district court jury found Weeks guilty, using the seized papers as incriminating evidence. Weeks was sentenced to a fine and imprisonment, a verdict that was then appealed to the Supreme Court. In 1914, the Supreme Court reversed the lower court's judgment. It established the federal exclusionary rule, ruling that the warrantless seizure of private papers violated the Fourth Amendment, requiring exclusion of the evidence. The Weeks rule profoundly shaped federal criminal procedure by establishing the modern exclusionary rule in all federal courts. It secured constitutional rights and deterred unconstitutional searches and seizures by the government. This concludes our video on the landmark case of Weeks versus United States and the establishment of the federal exclusionary rule.